Today we're going to talk about the last part of the book of Amos, chapters 7 to 9. The backbone of these chapters consists of a report about 5 visions that Amos had. The first 3 visions are reported at the beginning of chapter 7, verses 1 to 9. The fourth vision comes at the beginning of chapter 8, verses 1 to 3. And then the final and fifth vision is found in the beginning of chapter 9. And it is really this 5 visions report that will be in the focus of this video. In between the visions there is some intervening material, a narrative at the end of chapter 7 which is found between the third and the fourth vision, and then a collection of oracles between the fourth and the fifth vision in chapter 8. Amos preached to an audience which did not believe and accept his message of impending doom, and rejected him as a prophet because they believed they were the people of Yahweh. And the visions report is part of the prophet's attempt to undermine that confidence by showing that it is an unfounded confidence, a confidence which is based on a distorted and perverted view of reality. To understand the vision report, one has to pay close attention to its structure. The first 2 visions, found in chapter 7 verses 1 to 3 and 4 to 6, are structured in exactly the same way, and they are clearly meant to be read in parallel. The first vision, in the first vision, Amos is shown the coming of a locust plague, which is going to devastate the crops and is therefore threatening Israel with hunger. Amos prays when he sees the vision, and he prays that the Lord will forgive Jacob, and the Lord replies by saying that he is not going to bring about this disaster. This shall not be. The second vision is structured in exactly the same way. Amos is again shown an impending disaster. This time it is a shower of fire which is going to devour the great deep and the land of Israel. Amos again prays using more or less the same words as in the previous vision. O Lord, cease, I beg you, how can Jacob stand? He is so small. And the Lord responds again in the same way. The Lord relented concerning this also shall not be. So in the first 2 visions, Amos is able to avert the disaster by praying to God and asking for his mercy on the people of Israel because of their weakness and vulnerability. The second pair of visions are also parallel to each other, and they are different, significantly different from the first and the second vision. The difference lies first of all in the nature of the thing that is shown to Amos. Whilst in the first and the second vision he is given to see something which clearly implies danger, in the third and fourth vision Amos is simply shown an object from everyday life. A plumb line in vision 3 and a basket of summer fruits in vision 4. The meaning of the first vision is somewhat debated among scholars, because the word which is used 4 times in this vision, the Hebrew word anach, is the only this vision is the only time in the Old Testament where this word is used, and its meaning is not entirely clear. A number of modern commentators translate it as tin, but it is very difficult then to understand the meaning of a vision which has Yahweh standing on a wall of tin, holding tin in his hand, and then proclaiming that he will put tin in the midst of my people Israel. And for that reason, in my view, the traditional translation, which is based on the idea that the word anach means lead, and therefore describes the weight of a plumb line, is still preferable. The wall then represents Israel, and Yahweh is measuring the straightness of that wall with a plumb line to see whether the wall is leaning. And if it is leaning, and leaning not in a nice touristy sort of way, but leaning indicating that it has become dangerous, the verdict is that this wall needs to be pulled down and destroyed, because it is no longer straight, it is no longer fit for purpose. The next vision is based on a play of on words between two words in Hebrew, the first one translated as summer fruit and the second one translated as the end. Amos is shown a basket of summer fruit, and in Hebrew this word sounds kites. And then when he is asked what he sees, and he says, I see a basket full of kites of summer fruit, the Lord says, the end, Haketz, has come upon my people Israel. And the two words, as you can see, sound very similar. Some people even think in the northern dialect of Israel they may have been pronounced in the same way. And therefore, by means of this wordplay, the Lord pronounces his verdict after the third vision. Israel has been measured, it is not straight anymore, it needs to be pulled down, and therefore the end of the people of Israel has come. Judgment is impending. The basket of summer fruits, which normally would be a symbol of blessing, of fertility, of prosperity, of good harvest, now ironically is turned into its very opposite. It becomes a symbol of judgment. The second pair of visions, the third and the fourth vision, therefore, proclaim a very different message from the first pair. Whilst in the beginning Amos is able to avert the judgment by praying for Israel, now he is not able to do so. And his inability is highlighted by the different structure of the second pair of visions. Again, much like the first pair, they are parallel in their structure, in their wording, as you can see on the screen, but they follow a different pattern. Amos is shown an object which is not easy to interpret in the first instance, a plumb line and a basket of summer fruit. Therefore, he is unable, right at the very beginning, to pray in response to that object. He needs to await further information and instructions. The Lord follows the image of the object with a question, what do you see? And when Amos responds to that question, I see a plumb line, I see a basket of summer fruit, the Lord then uses this opportunity to respond, and in his response he proclaims the doom and the judgment on the people. The end has come on my people Israel, I will never again pass by them. This development from judgment, which is averted through prayer in the first two visions, to judgment which cannot be avoided any longer in the second pair of the visions, reaches its conclusion and climax in the fifth vision in chapter 9. The vision begins by Amos seeing the Lord standing beside the altar. Much like the preceding vision, initially this sounds like good news. The Lord is expected to be beside the altar in a temple when people gather for worship. However, what follows has nothing to do with blessing. The Lord commands to someone who is not identified in the vision to strike the capitals until the thresholds shake, and therefore to destroy the temple so that it collapses and falls on the people who are gathered to worship. After the building collapses, there is presumably widespread panic. People will scatter and flee, but the message of the vision is, no one shall escape. And the rest of the vision is really focused on underlining this message. There is going to be no escape whatsoever. There are 5 places where the Israelites might try to escape: Sheol, heaven, top of Carmel, the bottom of the sea, and then finally escaping by going into captivity. But none of those places will provide a safe haven for them. No matter how high they go or how low they go, there is no place in the world that can provide them with safety and security once Yahweh begins to execute his judgment upon them. And if they go even to the bottom of the sea, there the mythical sea serpent will bite and destroy them. The main point of the visions report, therefore, is to proclaim that the end has come upon the people of Israel. It is near, and there is going to be no escape for them. Neither prophetic intercession nor any human attempt to provide security is going to be enough to ensure that the people escape the judgment of Yahweh. What is the point of that visions report? Well, clearly, if we imagine it being proclaimed by the historical Amos before the disaster has come on Israel, its purpose is to counter an attitude like the one that we see here, an attitude of arrogance and false sense of security, and to make people realize that their security is unfounded, that their hope of security is unfounded and false. Within the book of Amos, as we now have it, obviously this visions report performs a different function, because the book is addressed to people, or is meant to be read by people who live after the disaster which struck the northern kingdom. And to appreciate the point of this report, one needs also to look at the intervening material. Especially, one needs to look at the narrative in chapter 7 and ask the question, why was this narrative inserted between the third and the fourth vision? What does it say to the readers of the book? How does it change or redirect the message of the visions report? And so in class we will have to look at the encounter between the prophet Amos and the priest Amaziah, and think, what does that encounter mean in the context of the visions of Amos. Taken on its own, however, the visions report is a challenge to human pride and arrogance. It challenges the ludicrous human notion that human beings can somehow outsmart God, challenge him, ignore him, or escape him whenever he comes to visit them.